You were never too much. Let me say that slow, because somebody lied to you for a long time. You weren't too loud, too ambitious, too deep, too driven. You were just standing in rooms where your light made insecure people uncomfortable. And instead of growing, they tried to dim you. See, the world got a way of gaslighting the ones who carry vision. When you're ahead of the curve, people call you arrogant. When you refuse to settle, they call you difficult. When you demand respect, they say you're asking for too much. But the truth is, what feels like too much to the wrong people is exactly what's required in the right environment. I had to learn that the hard way. I spent years questioning myself, wondering why every room felt heavy, why every conversation felt like resistance. And then it hit me, ain't nothing wrong with the engine. I was just trying to fly with people who were scared of altitude. You gotta understand something about growth. Growth don't ask for permission. Growth doesn't apologize for taking up space. Growth is uncomfortable to anyone who's committed to staying the same. So when you start elevating, when your mindset sharpens, when your discipline gets serious, some people will start acting funny. Not because you changed for the worse, but because you outgrew the agreement you never consciously signed. Stop shrinking to be digestible. Stop lowering your standards so people can keep access to you. You don't owe nobody a smaller version of yourself. The real ones will adjust. The fake ones will complain. Let them. Sometimes God, life, the universe, whatever you believe in, will isolate you on purpose. Not as punishment, but as preparation. Separation is often protection in disguise. You thought you were being rejected, but you were actually being redirected. You were being pulled away from spaces that couldn't sustain who you were becoming. Look at your past and be honest. How many times did you dim your fire just to keep the peace? How many times did you silence your intuition just to stay accepted? That wasn't love, that was survival. And you're not built to just survive, you're built to build, to lead, to inspire. Your intensity is not a flaw. Your depth is not a burden. Your vision is not unrealistic. You just can't explain big dreams to small minds and expect understanding. Everybody can't come where you're going. And that's not disrespect, that's reality. Once you get around people who speak your language, who respect your grind, who don't flinch at your ambition, everything changes. You stop feeling like you're doing too much and start realizing you were actually holding back in the right circle. You don't have to over-explain yourself. Your presence makes sense. So if you're in a season where you feel misunderstood, alone, or out of place, don't panic. That's often a sign you're leveling up. That's the space between who you were and who you're becoming. Stay solid in that gap. Stay disciplined. Stay authentic. Because one day you'll look back and realize you were never too much. You were just too real for people who weren't ready to grow. You were never the problem. And I need you to really sit with that truth. Because for too long, you've been carrying weight that was never yours to hold. You walked into rooms already questioning yourself, already prepared to apologize for your ambition, your hunger, your depth, because somewhere along the way, people convinced you that your growth was an inconvenience. But growth has never been polite. Growth disrupts comfort. Growth exposes stagnation. And when you show up evolving, it forces everybody around you to look at what they've been avoiding in themselves. A lot of people don't hate you. They hate the mirror you accidentally hold up. You remind them of the dreams they postponed, the discipline they avoided, the courage they never developed. So instead of rising to meet you, they try to pull you down to where they feel safe. And when you don't fit into their limited frame, they label you difficult, aggressive, ungrateful, or selfish. That's how environments protect their own mediocrity. They convince the one growing that something must be wrong with them. You gotta understand that environments are powerful. They shape how you see yourself if you stay too long. You start mistaking resistance for reality. You start thinking the friction means you're off path, when really it means you're ahead of it. Not every space is designed to hold expansion. Some places are only built to maintain what already exists. And when you come in with vision, hunger, discipline, and long-term thinking, it threatens the agreement everybody else made to stay comfortable. I've seen people water themselves down just to belong. I've seen brilliant minds go quiet so nobody feels intimidated. I've seen leaders play small so they don't get labeled arrogant. And every time, it costs them something internally. Confidence erodes. Intuition dulls. Self-trust breaks down slowly. Not all at once, but enough that one day you wake up disconnected from who you really are. That's not because you lack strength. That's because you stayed too long where you weren't celebrated, only tolerated. Your environment should sharpen you, not constantly question you. It should challenge you to be better, not pressure you to be less. When you're in the wrong place, even your strengths feel like liabilities. Your work ethic becomes doing too much. Your standards become unrealistic. Your focus becomes antisocial. But take those same qualities and put them in the right room, and now you're disciplined, visionary, respected. Same person, different soil. That's how you know it was never you. Seeds don't doubt themselves when they don't grow in concrete. They need the right ground. And once they get it, growth becomes natural, almost effortless, because nothing is resisting their nature. You weren't failing. You were just planted where you couldn't fully take root. There's a reason why some people only support you in theory but not in practice. They like the idea of you winning, as long as it doesn't force them to confront their own complacency. They'll clap quietly, then talk loud when you leave the room. They'll benefit from your energy but resent your progress. And if you stay unaware, you'll keep trying to prove yourself to people who already decided they weren't coming with you. You don't need more validation from the same environment that drains you. You need alignment. You need spaces where your ambition isn't questioned but expected, where growth isn't seen as betrayal, where elevation doesn't make you an outsider. When you find that, you stop explaining yourself. You stop defending your pace. You stop negotiating your vision. A lot of the loneliness you felt wasn't isolation. It was transition. It was the space between who you used to be and who your environment couldn't allow you to become. That discomfort wasn't failure. It was friction from outgrowing a system that no longer matched your frequency. And the moment you stop internalizing that resistance, the moment you stop calling yourself the problem, you start moving different. You protect your energy. You choose your rooms carefully. You understand that not everyone deserves access to the version of you that's still becoming. Every time you make yourself smaller just to be accepted, something inside you pays the price. It might not hurt immediately, but over time it shows up as frustration, confusion, and a quiet resentment you can't explain. You start feeling tired for no clear reason, unmotivated even though you know you're capable of more. That's not laziness, that's your spirit reacting to being denied room to breathe. Shrinking doesn't bring peace, it brings delay. You think you're keeping harmony, but what you're really doing is postponing purpose. You silence your ideas so nobody feels threatened. You slow your pace so nobody feels left behind. You lower your standards so nobody accuses you of acting different. And little by little, the fire that once drove you starts burning low. Not because it went out, but because you stopped feeding it. Acceptance that requires self-betrayal is too expensive. Any space that only welcomes you when you're quiet, agreeable, and non-threatening doesn't actually accept you. It tolerates you. Intolerance is a dangerous substitute for belonging. It keeps you present, but never fulfilled. It keeps you included, but never aligned. You're there physically, but mentally and spiritually, you're somewhere else, dreaming about a life you're scared to fully step into. A lot of people confuse loyalty with self-sacrifice. They think staying small proves you care. They think minimizing your shine keeps relationships intact. But real connection doesn't demand you abandon yourself. The right bonds expand with you. The wrong ones require you to stay frozen at the version of you they're comfortable controlling. When you shrink, you teach people how to treat you. You show them your boundaries are flexible. You show them your dreams are negotiable. You show them your potential can be paused for convenience. And once that pattern is set, it's hard to undo without friction. That's why choosing yourself later feels like rebellion. People aren't shocked that you're growing, they're shocked you stop asking permission. Purpose requires courage, not approval. Destiny doesn't show up once everyone agrees with you. It shows up when you decide to move even if nobody claps. There's always a cost to growth. Sometimes the cost is comfort. Sometimes it's familiarity. Sometimes it's people who love the old version of you but can't handle the evolved one. You weren't meant to fit in everywhere. You weren't built to be universally liked. You were built to be effective, impactful, and intentional. And effectiveness will always make the uncommitted uncomfortable. That doesn't mean you're doing too much. It means you're doing what most people avoid. Every time you suppress your truth, you strengthen fear. Every time you honor it, you build self-respect. And self-respect changes how you move. You stop chasing validation. You stop explaining your ambition. You stop apologizing for wanting more. You start choosing rooms where growth is normal and excellence is expected. The moment you stop shrinking, life starts responding differently. Opportunities show up, clarity sharpens, energy returns. Not because the world changed, but because you stopped fighting who you are. You realize that being misunderstood was better than being unfulfilled. That standing alone in your truth was safer than standing surrounded while disconnected from yourself. Shrinking delays destiny, because destiny requires fullness. It requires your voice, your edge, your standards, your hunger. You can't arrive at a big call and pretending to be small. You can't build something real while constantly editing yourself to stay comfortable. And once you accept that, you stop negotiating with fear. You stop trading your future for temporary belonging. You move forward knowing that what's meant for you will never require you to disappear to receive it. The right people don't fear your intensity because they understand where it comes from. They recognize that hunger in your voice, that focus in your eyes, that pressure you carry to become more than yesterday. Intensity doesn't scare those who are building something of their own. It only intimidates people who are comfortable standing still. When someone is aligned with purpose, they don't ask you to slow down. They ask how to keep up. You can always tell when you're in the wrong circle by how often you have to explain yourself. Explain why you work so hard. Explain why you don't settle. Explain why you think long term instead of chasing quick comfort. But when you're around the right people, explanations disappear. They already speak the language of sacrifice. They already understand the price of discipline. They already know that nothing real comes without pressure. Intensity is just passion with direction. It's what happens when vision meets commitment. But to people who live casually, it looks like aggression. To people who avoid accountability, it looks like judgment. To people who fear growth, it looks like a threat. So instead of learning from it, they resist it. Instead of respecting it, they criticize it. Not because it's wrong, but because it exposes what they've been avoiding. The right people don't compete with your fire. They add fuel to it. They don't ask you to dim your light. They help you sharpen it. They don't feel insecure around your ambition. They feel inspired by it. Your wins don't make them uncomfortable. They motivate them. Your discipline doesn't make them defensive. It challenges them to level up. That's how you know you found alignment. There's no jealousy disguised as jokes, no passive resistance, no subtle attempts to humble you for believing in yourself. Just mutual respect, just shared elevation, just conversations that push you forward instead of pulling you back. When you're in the wrong environment, intensity becomes lonely. You feel like you're always carrying more weight than everyone else. You're always thinking ahead while others are thinking about today. You're always investing while others are consuming. And that gap creates friction. But when you find the right environment, intensity becomes normal. It becomes the standard. It becomes the baseline expectation. The right people don't mistake your focus for arrogance. They know confidence built on work is different from ego built on nothing. They can tell when someone earned their self-belief. They respect consistency. They honor resilience. They recognize when someone has been through pressure and came out sharper instead of bitter. You stop feeling like you're too serious. You stop feeling like you're doing too much. You stop feeling misunderstood. Not because you changed who you are, but because you stopped trying to grow around people who couldn't see past their own limitations. You realized the issue was never your intensity. It was the lack of alignment around you. Every person has a frequency. And when frequencies don't match, distortion happens. You start doubting yourself. You start questioning your instincts. You start wondering if you should slow down or soften your edge. But when frequencies align, clarity returns. You trust yourself again. You move with confidence. You stop second-guessing your pace. The right people don't need you to explain why you're driven. They already know what it costs to stay hungry in a world full of distractions. They already understand that intensity is the price of excellence. They don't fear your growth because it doesn't threaten them. It reflects what's possible. Once you experience that kind of alignment, you can't go back to shrinking. You can't unsee the difference. You become protective of your energy. You choose quality over quantity. You choose respect over familiarity. You choose environments that recognize your intensity as purpose, not pressure.